Ooh. Brought to you by shit that I should not drink. Hey, what's up, guys? This is Soul. And since BlizzCon, there's been a lot of conversation about all the new systems and doohickeys and whatnot, but lately there's been a pretty big debate going on about Legendaries. Awful. Now, there's some great videos out there that do an overview of all the legendary items that have been revealed so far, but I'm not going to talk about them, so get out. They're out there. Have fun. But I'm going to talk about legendaries from before and now and kind of get my thoughts out there about what's going to happen. So, here goes. So, once upon a time, back in vanilla, and I guess during Lich King and Cataclysm 2, legendary items were a very guild-centric thing where one lucky player was chosen or fucking cursed to have a legendary item made for them. This shit was a really big deal. You had like 24 or 39 other people looking at you with wonder and scorn, being like, why the fuck were you chosen? Who did you blow? Oh, you're the GM's wife or spouse or whatever. Now, what's funny is that in Burning Crusade, legendaries were just totally random, were a total RNG drop from certain bosses, from Illidan and from Kill Jaden. So back then it was like, ooh, ninja loot, yes! And that's as far as that went. Oh, and by the way, if you have like 12 Warglaives for one hand and you're still farming for the other, I feel for you. No, I don't. But people look back on that fondly, a system that's gotten lost in the casualization of WoW. Drowned in quote-unquote easy content, LFRs, catch-up mechanisms, unicorns, whatever. So here's a quick rundown of how things have been, starting with Mist of Pandaria. Throughout the expansion, players went through a series of quests and won some powerful items along the way. During Mists, players got special gems and enchants, and eventually a pretty badass cape. During Warlords of Draenor, players got a ring that got progressively stronger over time. And one of the big draws or flaws or whatever is that this content was available for all players. Theoretically, all the players in your raid or battleground or group or orgy or whatever, they could all be wearing cape ring things and just blow stuff up. And certain players were like, hey, what gives? Now anyone can get a legendary? Our legendary is on like a fire sale right now. Legendary should be for the best of the best. Now, the entitlement of the elite has been a problem that's existed since Epeen, which is like forever. And on top of that, these more accessible legendaries became more like a standard for if a raid leader even wants you around. One thought is that if it's optional from a gameplay standpoint, it's required from a social standpoint. Think dailies and reps and work orders and missions and the feeling of having to do 100% of everything every day to become viable. Legendaries weren't legendary, they were more like the standard. Because yeah, dude, if you're not a noob, you could have the cape or the ring by now. God. I know I'm kind of simplifying the whole social issue, but let's just jump forward to Legion. So for Legion, that system's out. It's going to be a random world drop, which is kind of similar to random epics that would drop back in vanilla at a really low rate. And these items are crazy, like, what? Bullshit. Now, these can change at any time or even by the time I upload this video, but there's a link in the description to Wowhead that I'll provide, and it'll show you everything that's in the pipe right now. But in short, legendaries in Legion can just drop one day while you're hella hungover and be like, fuck, I'll do some dailies, man. Fuck word. So why? Why is Blizzard going so far to take the exclusiveness out of legendaries? Like, this stuff was supposed to represent the pinnacle of the most bleeding edge content from epic raids. How much more are they going to just shit on the best raiders? Now, if you want to stay angry about this topic, just hit the like and subscribe, and I'll just see you later. Bye! Since WoW was even announced, Blizzard was driven to build an experience that's more accessible to players. And as evidenced by all their games so far, they've been pretty true to their mark, for better or worse. Now, all this legendary stuff I've been talking about before Legion had one thing in common. You must raid! And it makes sense. Legendaries see their biggest benefit from raid content. There's a story and a narrative behind these items, so let's gate these things behind raid content. But maybe it's time to stop forcing players to do that. Now, raiding is the centerpiece of WoW. It's super important to the game, but maybe it shouldn't be shoved down people's throats if it's not their thing. Perhaps the focus should turn away from antisocial systems like garrison and shipyard stuff. And while legendaries should still exist, maybe they shouldn't just be an auto grab for all players. Instead, their acquisition could just be an afterthought, a really rare thank you gift for just being out there and playing game. So here's the points that I'm trying to drive so far. Early on, legendaries were used to encourage players to group together and achieve something, presumably as a guild. They were more like an item of prestige more than actual power. Then legendaries were used as kind of like a carrot on the stick to encourage participation in certain areas of WoW, naming the raiding modules. They were, in a lot of ways, a requirement, a more or less arbitrary bar that some players set to separate the goods from the bads. With Legion, legendaries will be totally random. It'll be a bonus thank you for participation in certain areas of WoW, namely world content. Now let's dwell on that for a second and also consider two of the new systems that Legion will introduce. World scaling and that whole adventure mode, daily objective, map thing, whatever. World scaling will scale the world of Legion to your player's level, which basically allows the entire continent to be used for max level content. The adventure thingamajigger is clearly going to take advantage of this, as now you have tons of different objectives all over the map with varying difficulties and types of content and rewards. So on top of people participating in this content, there could also be groups that are farming like high density zones with the hope of gaming the legendary drop rate. Sure, go ahead. Maybe the PvPers will be out there to make lunch out of them. The potential's there. As a whole, Legion is supposed to be the ungarrison expansion. Legendaries are just kind of the sprinkles. But what will this do for player power during the expansion, and what's the social impact? Are you gonna see groups that insist, hey dude, you gotta have like 2 legendaries or you don't get an invite? The fear is there because that kind of happens now. And it's real, I can't take that away from you, but I'll at least say this, dude, it's random. As a raid leader, I can't use this super random item to make a meaningful call on if a player is good. Because how did you get this item? It's not because you're awesome at the game, it's because you just got it. Having legendaries has no bearing on performance or workability as a player, and I'm not going to go begging these people to join my team just because they have them. Here's how I think it'll go. Legendaries are going to enhance the already good players to become great, but they'll enhance the already bad players to look even worse. So there's still the strong argument out there that the best gear should come from the most difficult source, and that's mythic content. And in saying that alone, with no context, that's correct. It makes sense. But here's the thing, it really is correct. You are getting the best gear because it's consistent. There's a direct result for killing a mythic boss, and that's getting a mythic something. This is my opinion, but one criteria of what defines the best gear in the game is that it has a higher drop rate than 0.1%. And if one out of the few hundred players who make up the world raiding scene get a legendary, then hey, you beat the odds. Grats. Most folks that go out there in the world and kill a couple thousand level 110 boars are probably not going to get a legendary. Maybe. Oh, but still, there are those players that are just frothing at the mouth about these legendaries being super unbalanced and overpowered. But really, these guys need to take a look at themselves. Based on that observation, those players are already resolving to sit there and just marathon on mobs, knowing that they're already bitching about what they think they need to do to succeed. But what's the worst thing that could happen with this system? It'd be the world first race on the first tier, because that's basically the shortest amount of time between the start of Legion and the world first kill. And that's going to happen like a couple weeks after Mythic comes out. A legendary in the hands of the methods and paragons of the world could have some pretty big consequences, like bitching. So the solution? Don't let that stuff drop till a few weeks after the world first race. That'd probably be around the time the last LFR wing is released, or however that goes, so the timing kind of works out. So that's my few cents there. Just let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. Like and subscribe. I'll try to get some more stuff out there. But, Fallout. So I'll see you guys next time. Stay breezy.